He took everything in the divorce. The house, the savings, the car, leaving her with nothing but her daughter and a heart full of broken promises. To the world, she was just another defeated woman, struggling to survive in silence. But what no one knew was that hidden in the shadows of her past was a letter, one that would change the course of her life forever. This is not just a story of loss, but of resilience, revelation, and redemption. Before we begin, make sure to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell. These stories will grip your heart, stir your emotions, and keep you watching until the very end. The papers were signed in less than 15 minutes, but to Emma, it felt like the death of 20 years. Her husband, ex-husband now, sat across from her in the lawyer's office, his suit pressed, his smile thin. He had fought for everything and won. The house with its wide porch and manicured lawn, the car that had carried them through road trips and grocery runs, even the savings account she had helped build through years of scrubbing floors and clipping coupons had been drained into his name. All she had left was her daughter, Lily, and a box of belongings that fit into the trunk of a borrowed car. Walking out of that office, Emma felt as though the world had split into two. Those who won and those who were left behind. She was on the losing side now. The first days were the hardest. She and Lily moved into a tiny rental apartment that smelled of mildew and old cigarettes. The carpets were stained, the windows drafty, but it was all she could afford. At night, she tucked Lily into bed and whispered promises that felt more like prayers. "We'll make it through. I won't let this be the end of us." Still, the humiliation cut deep. Friends she thought she could count on stopped calling. Neighbors whispered about the woman who had lost it all. At the grocery store, she caught strangers glancing at her cart filled with clearance bread and generic brand milk, their eyes sharp with judgment. Emma carried it quietly, swallowing her pain because Lily needed her to stay strong. One evening, while sorting through the last of her boxes, Emma stumbled upon a small wooden chest she didn't recognize. It was old, the edges worn, the brass latch dull with age. She almost set it aside, until she noticed a folded envelope wedged inside, sealed in wax. Her name was written across it. Emma's hands trembled. She broke the seal carefully, unfolding paper yellowed with time. The handwriting was familiar, her grandfather's. "Emma," the letter began, "if life has brought you to this place, then I feared this day would come. I know you, child. You are stronger than they will ever understand. I left something for you, hidden where only someone with your patience will find it. Do not let despair blind you to the truth. You were meant for more than loss." She read it twice, 3 times, the words etching themselves into her heart. Hidden? Left something? She searched the chest, pulling out scraps of fabric and faded photographs. Beneath a false bottom, her fingers brushed against brittle paper. A deed, folded tightly, with her grandfather's signature. Her breath caught. The document described land, acres of it, registered in his name but never transferred. At the bottom was a note scrawled in the same hand. "For Emma, when she needs it most." Emma's chest tightened. Could it be real? Did she, who had been left with nothing, still own something powerful? Something her ex-husband had overlooked? That night she barely slept. Her mind spun with questions. If the deed was legitimate, why had her grandfather kept it hidden? Was it still legally hers? Or would her ex somehow find a way to snatch it, just as he had taken everything else? The next morning, she tucked the letter and deed carefully into her purse. As she walked Lily to the bus stop, the child looked up with wide, searching eyes. "Mom, are we going to be okay?" Emma squeezed her hand, a flicker of determination sparking beneath her exhaustion. "Yes," she whispered, "we're going to be more than okay." But deep inside, a storm brewed. She knew she had uncovered something that could change everything. And she also knew if her ex ever discovered it, he would stop at nothing to take it away. Emma pressed the purse closer to her side, as if protecting a secret treasure. For the first time since the divorce, she felt the faintest glimmer of power returning. And yet, in the shadows of that fragile hope, she sensed the battle was only beginning. The county recorder's office smelled like toner and old dust, A purgatory of metal chairs and tired faces. Emma clutched her grandfather's letter and the folded deed so tightly the edges bit crescents into her palms. A flickering fluorescent bulb hummed overhead. Behind the glass, a clerk in a navy cardigan looked up with the particular weariness of someone who'd seen every kind of desperate story. "I need to verify a deed," Emma said, willing her voice not to shake. "It's older." "Line 3, the clerk said, sliding a form through the slot. "Fill this out. We'll pull the microfilm." Microfilm. The word felt like a bridge to the past. Emma balanced the clipboard on her knee, scratching answers with a pen that skipped. When she returned the form, the clerk disappeared into the stacks. Minutes stretched. Emma stared at the floor tiles, counting their chips, steadying her breath. A door clicked. The clerk returned carrying a gray reel and a guarded curiosity. "Name checks out," she said, rolling the film onto a viewer. "Let's see if the document was ever transferred." Light flooded the screen, soft and bluish. The clerk scrolled, frames whispering by sales, surveys, taxes paid and not paid. Then the image steadied. The deed, her grandfather's bold signature, the parcel number, the acreage. The clerk leaned closer. "Ha!" she murmured. "No record of transfer. Taxes were prepaid into a trust for 25 years. She glanced at Emma, which just expired last spring. That might be why notices started bouncing back. "So, it's still his?" Emma asked, heart racing. "Technically," the clerk said, eyes sharpening. "But the will could have designated a beneficiary. If there's no competing claim, and if you can prove your line of succession." She sat back, assessing Emma's trembling hands, the careful way she held the letter. "You could petition to quiet title. It's not simple, but it's not impossible." The words unfurled inside Emma like a sail catching wind. "Not impossible. Start here," the clerk added, sliding a stapled packet across the counter. "Instructions. Petition to quiet title. And get a lawyer who's on your side." Emma tucked the papers into her bag like a lifeline. Outside, winter sun cut bright and thin across the sidewalk. She called the only person who had stood in her yard when everyone else stared. "Jacob," she said when he answered. "It's real." He didn't ask what. He said, "Where are you? I'll meet you." They sat in a diner that smelled of coffee and grilled onions, the kind of place where time dissolved into bottomless refills. Emma spread the documents on the table. Deed, letter, instructions, names and numbers scribbled by the clerk. As Jacob read, his thumb tapped once against the form, the way it did when he was thinking fast. "You'll need an attorney with land experience," he said. "Not just any clinic. Someone who knows how developers play." "Developers?" Emma echoed, stomach tightening. He nodded toward the window, where a billboard loomed over the road. "Coming soon, Creekside Lux. They've been buying up everything along the creek. If this parcel fronts water, they'll come for it hard." Emma swallowed. "He took everything in court," she whispered, the memory moving through her like cold. "I can't lose this before I even hold it." "You won't," Jacob said, quiet as promise. "We make it harder to take." They found a small firm above a hardware store, walls lined in maps and aerial photos. The attorney, a woman with silver-streaked hair and a spine like a level, introduced herself as Miss Calder. She read the letter once, the deed twice, then asked precise questions that made Emma feel both exposed and seen. "Your grandfather prepaid taxes through a trust," Miss Calder said, tapping the parcel number. "Smart. Kept the land off radar. The trust collapsed when the term ended, which is why the timing is bad and good. Bad because vacuum attracts vultures. Good because you showed up now. Can we protect it?" Emma asked. "We can file a lease pendens with your quiet title petition. Puts the world on notice that ownership is in dispute," Calder said. "It won't stop a bully from trying, but it gives us leverage. I'll also record your grandfather's letter as a supporting affidavit. Intent matters." Emma exhaled, shaky with relief. Calder's gaze softened. "You should also prepare for personal pressure. People push hardest when paper won't move for them. As if on cue, Emma's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Walk away while you can. Last warning. Her chest tightened. Save it, Calder said, already holding out a hand. We document everything. Intimidation helps us, not them. By late afternoon, filings were drafted. Emma signed with the caution of someone who had learned signatures could both free and bind. When she stepped back onto the sidewalk, the thin sun had slipped behind buildings, the cold settling in. They rode the bus in tired silence. As the shack came into view, Emma's breath fogged the window. For the first time, she saw the land the way her grandfather must have rooted, stubborn, worth more than what anyone could build on it. Then the bus turned, and the world narrowed with it. A black SUV idled at the end of her road, engine low, windows dark. Emma felt the now familiar prickle at the base of her neck. Jacob followed her gaze. You know him? No, she said, which was true and not. The shape of threat rarely needed a name. They stepped off the bus. Gravel crunched. The SUV rolled forward, unhurried, as if the driver owned the right to her fear. Stopped beside them. The window whirred down. Emma's breath caught. Her ex-husband rested one arm on the door. Wedding band gone. Smile unchanged. Heard you found a toy, he said mildly, ice cold. Funny thing about toys, they break. Jacob shifted closer. A quiet wall. Emma didn't step back. It's not a toy, she said steady. It's a deed. Deeds burn, he replied. A second car turned onto the road. Sleek, unfamiliar. Pulling in tight behind the SUV. The passenger door opened, and a man in a City Seal windbreaker stepped out, clipboard in hand, official badge glinting in the last light. Ms. Reyes? He called too loudly. I'm here to discuss a code compliance complaint and a notice of intent to condemn. Emma felt the ground tilt, a tide pulling hard at her ankles. The paperwork in her bag seemed suddenly, impossibly thin against what was gathering. Behind the windbreaker man, the SUV's window inched higher, her ex's smile narrowing to a blade. Shall we go over your options? The official asked, pen poised. Emma tightened her grip on the strap of her bag, felt the letter's soft edge against her wrist, and lifted her chin into the wind. Let's, she said. But as the official flipped to the last page on his clipboard, Emma spotted a header that turned her blood cold. An agency name she recognized from every fight she thought she'd already lost. The official's badge gleamed under the gray sky, but Emma's gut twisted. His tone was too casual, his clipboard too clean, his timing far too convenient. She had barely filed her petition, and already someone stood at her door with threats dressed as procedure. I'll need access to the structure, the man said briskly, eyes skimming the shack. Complaints mention unsafe wiring, unsanitary conditions, roof instability. If violations are confirmed, the property could be condemned within weeks. Jacob shifted beside her. Where's your paperwork from the county office? He asked, voice calm but sharp. The man hesitated a second too long. This is preliminary. Emma caught the slip, the way his hand tightened on the clipboard, as though gripping not authority, but theater. Then leave your card, she said evenly. My attorney will contact your office. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Suit yourself. He slid a paper from the clipboard and held it out. The ink was fresh, the header stamped with a seal she recognized from her divorce hearings. The law firm her ex-husband had used. Emma's stomach dropped. This wasn't the county. It was him. She didn't take the paper. You can tell Mark I'm not afraid. The man's eyes flickered, just once, before he folded the paper and tucked it back. Fear isn't the point, Ms. Reyes. Reality is. Then he turned, climbing into the sleek car. Gravel spat under the tires as it followed the SUV down the road. The silence they left behind pressed like a weight. Jacob broke it first. He's trying to bury you before you can even stand. Emma's throat tightened. He already did once. Not this time, Jacob said firmly. Inside, Lily perched at the table, looking between them with wide eyes. Was that man here to take our house? Emma knelt, cupping her daughter's face. No one is taking anything, not without a fight. She wanted to believe her own words. That night, sleep refused her. She sat at the table long after Lily had drifted off, her grandfather's letter spread out before her. Hidden where only someone with your patience will find it. She had found the deed. But was that all he meant? Her fingers traced the margin of the letter, rougher than the rest of the page. She lifted the edge, felt a faint ridge. Heart pounding, she held the paper to the lantern light. There, lines, faint as ghosts, beneath the visible text. She fetched the stub of a pencil, shading lightly across the back of the letter. Slowly, words emerged like whispers through fog. Check the cellar. What I could not write openly, I left below. Emma's breath caught. The hidden room, the one where she had found the chest, still held secrets. The next day, Jacob brought tools. Together, they returned to the cellar, their flashlights cutting through damp air. The chest still sat in the corner, lid ajar. But Emma's focus was on the stone wall behind it. She pressed along the seams, fingertips brushing for irregularities. There, Jacob said, pointing to a section where mortar crumbled more easily. They worked in tense silence, prying stones loose until an opening appeared. Small at first, then widening enough to reveal a cavity hidden for decades. Inside lay a tin box wrapped in oilcloth, edges rusted but intact. Emma's hands shook as she pulled it free. She peeled away the cloth, her breath clouding in the chill. The box creaked open, releasing the scent of earth and time. Inside were rolled papers tied with string, a bundle of photographs, and a small leather-bound journal. Emma lifted the journal first. The cover was cracked, initials pressed faintly into the leather. H.R. Her grandfather's. She opened to the first page. The writing was hurried, urgent. If they ever come for this land, know that it is not only ours by blood, but by history. Beneath the creek bed lies what they covet. Do not sell. Do not surrender. Protect it. Her mouth went dry. What's under the creek? She whispered. Jacob leaned over her shoulder. Something they don't want you to know. As dusk fell, Emma carried the box back to the shack, her nerves raw. Lily sat curled on the couch, sketchbook in her lap. Did you find more? She asked. Emma hesitated, then nodded. Yes, enough to keep us going. But the truth gnawed inside her. Her grandfather hadn't just left her land. He had left her a warning. Something beneath the creek. Something that explained why developers and her ex-husband were circling like vultures. That night, as Emma placed the journal on the table, headlights flared against the shack walls. A car idled outside, engine low, lights cutting through the thin curtains. A voice called out from the dark. Emma, we need to talk. It was Mark, and he wasn't alone. Mark's silhouette filled the doorway when Emma opened it a crack. His smirk was the same as in the courtroom, the same one that haunted her in the long nights after the divorce. But now there was something colder in his eyes, ownership, entitlement, as though she were still his to control. Emma, he drawled, hands in his pockets. You've been busy, digging up old dirt, playing with papers you don't understand. Behind him, two men lingered by the car, broad shoulders, blank stares, the kind of presence meant to intimidate without a word. Emma tightened her grip on the edge of the door. This land was my grandfather's, she said steadily. It's mine now. Mark leaned closer, lowering his voice. Yours? You think a few scraps of paper and some sentimental garbage make you untouchable? You have no idea what's buried here. Emma's chest tightened. Then why are you so desperate to take it? His smile thinned. Because I know it's worth. And you're not strong enough to hold it. Jacob stepped up beside her, his voice firm. She doesn't stand alone. Mark's eyes flicked to Jacob, disdain sharp. Ah, the handyman. Careful where you place your loyalty. This fight is bigger than both of you. Emma's knuckles whitened on the doorframe. Leave, she said, her voice firm though her heart thundered. Mark studied her a moment longer, then turned, motioning his men to follow. But as he slid into the car, he called back, Check the creek bed, Emma. See what your dear grandfather was really hiding. The car rolled away, taillights bleeding red into the night. Emma barely slept. Mark's words gnawed at her. The creek bed. She pulled her grandfather's journal from the tin box, flipping through brittle pages until she found the passage again. Beneath the creek lies what they covet. Do not sell. Do not surrender. At dawn, she woke Jacob. Together they hiked to the creek, Lily trailing close, curiosity bright in her eyes. The water was low from drought, exposing jagged rocks and patches of clay. There, Jacob said, pointing to a mound of earth along the bank. It looked unnatural, like something had been deliberately piled and smoothed. They dug with shovels borrowed from his truck, the air tense with every scrape of metal on stone. Hours passed before Emma's shovel struck something solid. She dropped to her knees, clawing at the dirt with raw hands until a wooden crate emerged, waterlogged but intact. With Jacob's help, she pried the lid open. Inside were rusted metal cylinders, wrapped carefully in oilcloth. She pulled one free, unwrapping the fabric until the gleam of engraved brass caught the sunlight. Her breath caught. It was an artifact, something old, something valuable. Alongside it lay folders of yellow documents sealed with official stamps from decades past. Jacob whistled low. Emma, this isn't just property. This is history. Her grandfather's journal had mentioned community, protection, legacy. Now she understood. The land wasn't just worth money. It was tied to something far larger, something powerful enough to make men like Mark scheme and threaten. Emma's hands shook as she held the cylinder. If this is real, it could prove my grandfather's claim. It could make the land untouchable. Jacob nodded. But it also puts a target on your back. By the time they returned to the shack, word had already spread. Neighbors whispered near the fence, eyes sharp with curiosity and envy. One called out, "What did you dig up down there?" "Gold." Emma ignored them, carrying the crate inside like a sacred trust. But her chest was tight with dread. Mark had known. If he knew, others did too. That evening, as she spread the documents across the table, Lily's small voice broke the silence. "Mom, what if they try to hurt us?" Emma brushed a hand over her daughter's hair. "Then we'll stand together. We're not running this time." She didn't know where the strength came from, only that it burned hotter than her fear. 2 nights later, the threat escalated. A rock smashed through the shack's window, glass raining across the floor. Emma shielded Lily as Jacob dashed outside, shouting into the darkness. A car engine roared, tires spitting gravel as it sped away. Emma's chest heaved as she clutched her daughter close. This was no longer intimidation, it was war. She picked up the rock, her fingers brushing the note tied around it. "Last chance. Sell or you'll regret it." Her hands trembled, but her voice was steady as she looked at Jacob. "They want a fight? Then we'll give them one. In court. With the truth." But deep inside, she knew Mark and his allies weren't finished. And the next move they made could be the most dangerous yet. The courthouse smelled of polished wood and cold stone, a place built to intimidate and impress in equal measure. Emma clutched the worn leather journal in one hand, the folder of deeds and documents in the other. Her palms were slick, her heartbeat uneven, but her jaw was set. Beside her, Jacob gave a small nod, steady, unshaken, as if his calm could tether her own. Across the aisle, Mark leaned back in his chair, flanked by 2 high-priced attorneys in sleek suits. His smirk was the same one that had haunted her since the divorce, the smirk of a man who believed the world bent for him. "All rise," the bailiff intoned. The judge, a woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, entered. Emma stood, her knees trembling, Lily watching from the gallery with a face full of quiet hope. The hearing began with motions and objections, language heavy with codes and statutes. Mark's attorneys painted Emma as desperate, clinging to myths of ownership. They argued the shack was uninhabitable, the land neglected, her claim flimsy. When it was Emma's turn, Ms. Calder, her attorney, rose with calm precision. "Your Honor, this isn't myth. It's inheritance. It's legacy." She held up the deed, the trust records, and finally, Emma's grandfather's letter. This land was preserved intentionally, taxes prepaid, records hidden, not abandoned. And as of now, my client is the rightful heir. Mark's attorney scoffed. A sentimental letter? Hardly binding. Miss Calder's eyes flashed. Perhaps. But what about this? She lifted the rusted cylinder Emma had found, still wrapped in oilcloth. Recovered from a sealed cellar on the property, alongside documents bearing official stamps from the Historical Commission, circa 1950. The courtroom buzzed. The judge leaned forward. You have these documents? Miss Calder spread them out, maps, surveys, receipts signed by city officials long gone. They show this land was not only private property, but marked for preservation due to historical significance. That designation still stands. Mark's smirk faltered. As recess was called, Emma sat on a bench in the hallway, hands shaking around a cup of water. Lily slipped beside her, whispering, "You did so good, Mom." Emma smiled weakly. "We're not done yet, sweetheart. But we're close." Jacob sat across from them, his gaze scanning the corridor. "Careful," he murmured. "He's not beaten. Not yet." Sure enough, Mark strode past, pausing just long enough to hiss under his breath. "You're playing with fire, Emma. You think this court saves you? Paper burns. People break." His eyes flicked to Lily, cruel and deliberate. "Everyone has a weakness." Emma's chest iced over. She pulled Lily close, her anger igniting into something fiercer than fear. "Stay away from her," she snapped, loud enough to draw stares. Mark only smirked and walked on. Back in the courtroom, Miss Calder presented the final piece. Emma's grandfather's journal. She read aloud passages about the land's history, his warnings about greedy hands, his hope that Emma would inherit not just dirt, but duty. The judge listened, her face unreadable. Then she turned to Mark's attorneys. "Do you have evidence to counter this?" They shuffled papers, muttered, produced nothing but speculation. For the first time, silence worked against them. Still, the judge did not rule immediately. "I will review the submissions and reconvene in 3 days," she said, her gavel sharp against wood. Emma's breath caught. 3 days, 3 days of waiting, of wondering if the truth would be enough. That night, back at the shack, exhaustion weighed heavy. Yet as Emma tucked Lily into bed, she felt a strange steadiness. She had faced the man who took everything and finally pushed back. But as she stepped outside for air, the night split with the roar of an engine. Headlights flared. A car screeched to a halt at the edge of her yard. A figure climbed out, shadowed but unmistakable, one of Mark's men. He held something in his hand, a blunt threat glinting under the moonlight. Emma's breath froze. The court battle wasn't the only fight. They were bringing the war to her doorstep. The figure at the edge of the yard stepped into the glow of the porch light, metal glinting in his hand. Emma's breath hitched, until she saw it was a crowbar, not a gun. But the message was clear. He took one step forward, menace in every line of his stance. Before Emma could speak, Jacob stormed out, a hammer in his grip. "That's far enough," he barked. The man sneered. "Orders are simple. You walk away from the land, or things get broken." Emma lifted her chin, voice trembling but unyielding. "Tell Mark I don't scare easy. And if he wants to send thugs in the night, I'll show the judge every step he takes." The man hesitated, unsettled by her defiance, then spat on the dirt and retreated to his car. Gravel sprayed as he tore off into the darkness. Emma sagged against the porch post, adrenaline burning through her veins. Jacob's hand steadied her shoulder. "You didn't flinch," he said softly. "No," she whispered. "I can't afford to anymore." 3 days later, the courtroom brimmed with tension. Neighbors had come, whispering about Emma's fight, some rooting for her downfall, others curious to see if she might win the impossible. Lily sat in the front row, clutching her sketchbook like a talisman. The judge entered, files in hand. Silence fell. "I have reviewed the submissions," she began, her tone crisp. "The deeds are authentic. The tax trust, though expired, was valid and fulfilled. The historical documents confirm this land was marked for preservation, and the journal provides supporting intent. Emma's heart pounded. The judge's gaze settled on her. Ms. Reyes, the court recognizes you as the rightful heir and owner of the property. The petition to condemn is dismissed. Furthermore, the consortium's intimidation will be referred for investigation. The gavel struck. Gasps rippled through the room. Emma pressed a trembling hand over her mouth as Lily launched forward, wrapping her in a fierce hug. Jacob exhaled, a grin breaking through his usual composure. Across the aisle, Mark's face drained of color. His smirk was gone, replaced by rage barely contained. He shoved back his chair and stormed out, his lawyers trailing helplessly. Outside the courthouse, reporters clustered with flashing cameras, voices firing questions. Emma shielded Lily, but her voice carried steady over the chaos. This land isn't just mine. It was my grandfather's dream, and now it will serve the community he loved. No one will take that away again. The words tasted like victory, hard-won, scarred, but hers. Weeks later, the shack no longer sagged under storms. With Jacob's help and volunteers from town, walls were rebuilt, a garden planted, and a small gathering space raised by the creek. Where once people mocked, now children laughed, neighbors shared meals, and Lily painted murals across the new walls. Emma stood on the porch watching the land come alive again. Her heart swelled, not with wealth, but with peace. She had been left with nothing, and yet here she stood, holding everything that truly mattered. Jacob handed her a mug of coffee, his eyes warm. You didn't just win, Emma. You changed the story. She smiled, tears shining. No, we did. Emma's journey proves that injustice doesn't have the final word. Resilience does. From losing everything in divorce to uncovering a hidden letter that reshaped her future, she rose stronger than anyone believed. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment about the part that inspired you most, and share this video with someone who needs hope today. Because sometimes, what's hidden in the ashes of loss becomes the seed of redemption.